All right, I think we are good.
Hey guys, welcome to Hot Topic Tuesday. Trish and April here, coming at ya in our little summer schedule. So with summer kind of being in full swing, and I definitely feel like June is Oh my gosh, June is like the most exciting month of summer. Like it's finally warm for most people, like kids are getting out of school, and I feel like we're in that like novelty of summer moment right now, where everyone's enjoying going out a little bit more, enjoying the sunshine, vacations, the whole bit. So we really want to talk about, practical ways that you can stay on track with eating out because a lot more people are eating out, going to cookouts, and doing some things like that. So we're all about being very practical here. So we want to keep these very easy, doable, and practical things that you can do. And we always say, if you have a plan that is so rigid and so restrictive that it doesn't allow for some occasional flexibility, that's honestly probably the first place you would want to start. And if you feel like you need to be very restrictive and rigid, especially in the summer, and when we want to be enjoying a little bit, definitely come talk to us because we can help you figure out how to put in some flexibility and just some fun social times into that. And these 5 strategies will give you a little bit of a head start with that. So the first one is going to be plan ahead. And I'm going to break this up a little bit into 2 parts. You have your plan ahead as far as researching the restaurant. Most restaurant has their menu online these days. So if you know you're going out to a specific place, you can definitely like look that up, kind of just eyeball the menu and see what's available. Look for the healthier options there. But another thing you can do to plan ahead is we have plenty of strategies that we use for our clients when we know they're going to get into a time like summertime where they're going to want to be more flexible and they're going to have more eating out times. So we even have strategies where clients might half track a day. We kind of do some calorie banking and put specific calorie times or calorie numbers for when they do go out to dinner. So they end up just tracking about half their day and then kind of those calories for the of last week and ended the week very stable. So that's just a way that you can be a little bit in control still of your day, in control of your calories, have awareness, but still get to go out and kind of enjoy a meal, with your family. Um, so planning ahead will definitely help you make those. Oh, go ahead. You want to jump
I
in?
was just going to add to plan ahead, and that goes restaurants, but also to like get-togethers, cookouts. I did have a client that to ask my advice a couple of weeks ago. She was going to a family get-together, and she said her family does not have healthy eating habits, and said, "Well, what do you typically do in situations like this where they basically just have carbs on carbs on carbs, and like there's just like nothing fresh and healthy?" And I told her, I was like, "I don't say anything. I just bring something." I was like,
Mhm.
I always, my strategy is, and I've learned to do this over the years, having some dietary restrictions of being dairy free and gluten free, that I'll just bring something. I'll bring something that I know that I can eat, or something that's like filled with veggies. I said, and then that way I'll have something in case I have no options, number one, but also I also look at it as I'm helping the people there maybe actually incorporate something healthy. Like they might see it
Absolutely.
and be like, "Ooh, that looks really good. Can I have some of that?" Of course.
Yes.
And then it actually helps improve their health as well. So that's a
Yeah.
strategy that I often use, and that was the advice that I gave the other week. So go
That
ahead.
is a great one, especially for summer barbecues and cookouts. Like it is so easy to throw together a really big healthy salad, lots of veggies, lots of volume, grilled veggies, anything like that. And then, at the cookout or whatever family gathering, if most people have protein, right? There's usually going to be a protein source. So if they see you adding like some chicken to your veggies and then maybe having a little bit of the fun stuff on the side, I think there's so many times that people are like, "Oh my gosh, that looks so good." They just don't really think about it. So that is a great, great, great strategy. So, doing things like that, checking out the restaurant menu, trying to make kind of more intentional, informed decisions before you're going to these events can definitely help keep you on track. Okay, so the other one is going to be to make smart substitutions. So, say you're out at a restaurant when ordering, you can always go for more of a grilled or baked option over fried options. You can do more whole grain. If they have whole grain starchy carb options, you can do that over some of the more refined carbohydrates. And you can do more vegetable based stuff too. So, kind of the same strategy if you do more of a protein veggie heavy meal and kind of fill in with the starchy carbs in there. That can be a great thing to do. And you don't have to be afraid to like do any customization. Most places are wonderful with that. Like most restaurants have a whole list of sides. I usually go for the sweet potato fries if they're offered. One of my like little treats of going out. So you can always just kind of look at the sides, make substitutions. Most people do not mind doing that at all. And even again at that family cookout, you can go for some of the healthier substitutions. There's usually protein options. In the summer times, lots of salads and things like that, fresh fruit. There's I think a watermelon at every event, right? You can usually get stuff like that too. You want to input anything
I was
for
gonna
this
say,
one?
yeah, I was gonna say I actually use that strategy like at the get-togethers where I'll have the plate, the bigger portions of the protein and the healthier stuff, and then smaller portions of the fun stuff. Sometimes if I go to a restaurant and say if I'm going to indulge with the bone-in cowboy ribeye, for example, that I know that has like 1,000,000 calories, then in lieu of the fries, I'll skip the fries and do the salad, like as my side, a substitution. So it's almost like kind of give and take a little bit. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater per se, and
Mhm.
just because I'm having this bone-in ribeye, screw it. Like I'm eating it all, So
Yeah.
it's kind of just some substitutions here and there where you can is usually the strategy I take as well.
Absolutely. And I also look at this almost probably should have been in the plan ahead, but like look at how many eating out, events you're going to be doing in a week too. Like if you're going out once in a week, and you don't really go out a whole lot, like you probably can get away with like a little bit more indulgences too. But that what we find in the summer is people have after event, like dinner out, cook out, like it really starts to get a little crazy at times. So these strategies will be more, helpful in those situations. Okay, the third one I'm going to touch on, and then April's going to take on the other two. Practice mindful eating. And this is going to sound really weird, but I think it's almost easiest to mindfully eat when you're with a group or at a restaurant or around a crowd of people, because usually we do naturally slow down our eating in those situations. I find that when you're, with a crowd, you're going to match people's paces. You're going to be talking between bites. You're going to be doing a little bit more socializing. So, mindful eating does tend to be, a little bit easier in those settings. Where it becomes tough, though, is when, especially in like a cookout setting where there's like a table full of food. I definitely struggle in those where you can get a little bit grazy, a little bit picky. So, my suggestion to everybody in those situations and to myself, because I'm horrible at this, is get a plate. Like look around, assess the table. It's okay to taste a couple things, but if you just keep on without making a plate, you're just so much better off making a plate. And put everything you want on there. Chances are, if you're eating mindfully, if you're slowing down, you're chewing slowly, you're having conversations with people, you're probably going to realize that you're more full with a big plate in front of you than you would if you're just like continually walking around the table and like picking at things. And I speak from experience because I've done both. And I know that if I get a plate and it's always like the dumbest thing, like, come on, why don't you do this every time? I'm definitely more likely to eat mindfully, have conversation, talk to people around me, and realize, like, wow, I'm done. But if I sit there and left to my own devices grazing around a table for hours, it may not end very well.
It's
so it,
it's
okay.
almost it's almost like the analogy that I use like way back around at Halloween of why is it okay? It's okay mentally for us to eat, 5 fun size Snickers, but yet we would never buy that king size at the grocery store, and like what you said, you get a plate, you'll put more of an appropriate portion size on there, and be mindful about the amount you're consuming versus, if you're just picking, it's sometimes we like to play tricks on, oh, it's not as bad, it's not that bad, only had a couple of bites. But the reality is when you're sitting there just picking and grabbing, you end up eating more than you would if you had grabbed a plate. Uh,
Oh, 100%. I've done it many, many times. And also like I think one of the reasons that if I do tend to like pick instead of grab a plate is I'm like, oh, I don't want to commit. Well, grab, a lot of everything onto that plate. Like you don't really have to commit. Like you can get definitely like fill up with the protein, fill up with the veggies if they're available, but grab a couple fun things on there too. But I'm telling you, chances are if you sit down with that plate and you're being mindful, chewing slowly, eating till you're 85% full, then you're probably going to realize that you eat a lot less than when you're just grazing. So that's another one. 80, I always say like eat till you're about 80, 85% full, that's another good mindful habit. That's easier to do if you're chewing slowly and eating slowly, which I do really do think that is a little bit easier in a crowd. So, all right, April, take on the last two for us.
Number four is portion control. So portion control, and that would be something about the US, y'all, America. We just overeat everything. Just you go to a restaurant and the portion sizes are just massive. They're huge. And some people like myself, I grew up like finish your plate. And I just have that natural habit and tendency to finish my plate, and sometimes that does not align with the mindful eating. So if you're somewhere where the portions are gigantic, ask for a box ahead of time, and go ahead and pack up half of your food. Like as soon as it hits the table, go ahead and pack up half of it and then take it home and you'll have it for lunch the next day. Or the other option would be to share a plate. If you're there with a friend or you're there with your spouse or partner, order something and share it. Not only are you controlling portions better, but you're also saving money. So you're saving money because you're splitting the cost. Another option, and I have no shame in this, I've done this in the past, is if I'm somewhere and the portions are really, really big, um, order off the kids menu. Like
Mhm.
order off the kids menu, or even order a couple of appetizers. So do a couple of appetizers rather than the main course, and it ends up being cheaper and the portions are smaller. So that is another strategy that you can do. And last but not least, very important one that people kind of try to sweep under the rug and ignore is to mind your beverages. So alcohol is a big part of a lot of people's lives around the summer, and socializing, and the cookout comes beverages, and restaurant, hanging out with friends, socializing, parties, get-togethers comes with beverages. Um, and I will say to drink your water, order water first, start drinking water first. I personally have a rule. I have a very, and I set all these rules for myself. Not so much for my clients, which I give a little bit of flexibility, but I do set a lot of rules for myself. For example, I was just at a conference over the weekend, and I have a rule of I have to, like, before I allow myself any drop of alcohol or an alcoholic beverage, I have to have first drank 100 ounces of water. That's the rule, period. Like, if I have not drank that 100 ounces of water, I don't get it. I don't get a sip. I don't get anything. So I have to hit that priority, or I have to hit that goal first. And then, even then, if I have a drink, then I have to follow it up by a large glass of water. So it's a match 1-to-1 thing. So mind your beverages, make order water first, drink water first. And then when you do an alcoholic beverage, then be mindful of avoiding sugary mixers and the high calorie options. And there's going to be a time and a place where, I mean, you go to, like, I don't know, Maui for vacation, and you got to have like a tropical sugary drink, at least one. But I mean, if you're just at like TGI Fridays, or I don't even know.
Yeah.
If you're just at like wherever, yeah, if you're just at like Cheddar's on, like a Thursday, you probably want to skip the pina colada. Like it's it's probably not, it's not going to line with your goals. So skip the sugary mixers, minimize the alcohol, and maybe try the one for one drink. That seems to
I love that rule. I really do. I tell I'm like April's rule, which is such a good one. I mean, we want to, it's summer too. It's hot usually places. Like you're going to want to stay hydrated. If you're at cookouts or eating out, you're eating higher sodium foods. So
yeah.
it makes sense. Like
But
it makes
just you
a ton
you
of sense.
drink you drink the 100 ounces first, so you check off that goal, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm free. I can have a drink." Well, then it's the one-to-one rule. So even then, you have that first drink. It's like, "Oh, this is so good." And you're like, "Oh, but I got to drink the water. I got to match it if I want to have a second one." And I guarantee y'all, long term, you'll end up, or long term, depending on how long you're at the function, you will drink less than you normally do, but you also will not be dehydrated, and you won't feel like poop the next day.
Yeah, because what is really bad in perimenopause? Hangovers.
Yes,
They get
yes,
a lot worse. So,
absolutely, absolutely.
don't think you're above that because
So
comes on
hopefully,
quick. Mhm.
hopefully this was helpful. And if anything, you got 5 strategies, and even if you incorporate one or two, hopefully it should help balance your summer get-togethers and social outings ahead. So y'all have a great week, and we will see y'all next week. Bye.